Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Chris.
Self-isolating in the dreamscape.
Yeah, we got Vince.
You all died here and had no place else to go which you could return.
Oh, wow. That's rough. I'm Kia. Hi, welcome to the show. I hope you're all doing well. That's how every conversation has to start. I hope you're doing well. And we are living in weird times, so we're going to read a weird comic. It's Sandman.
It's weird times. Our podcast was a week late. You know, it's
yeah,
weird times, man.
Like that's
the weirdest thing that's gone on in the last since we've been gone.
That's pretty much it. Nothing weird is happening in the world, but I know that us being a week late disrupted everybody's schedule. I've heard rumors that the stock market has been plummeting because our podcast was a week late, which is, you know, it's kind of crazy that it came to that, but
here we are.
I refuse to take accountability for that. That's not my fault. That's everyone's fault but mine.
Actually, that is accurate.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that is accurate. Other of us had conflicts. My wife got pneumonia, which in these trying times you think, is that something else or is it pneumonia? It was pneumonia. It's okay.
It was just pneumonia. Yeah,
just pneumonia. You know, whatever. She's still sick. It's terrible.
Right. It's rough. Okay.
Stay healthy, folks.
Yeah, it's also on my mind because I live in New York, and is this podcast just going to become about coronavirus instead?
Every single is.
No.
Yeah. No, I live in New York, and I've just found out work's going crazy tomorrow, so say that for another time. I'm going to unwind with some comics. What did we read? We read some Sandman. Finally, we've never read any Sandman for the show, have we? Oh no, sorry, that's not true. We read one issue for the Prez episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode. But other than that, we definitely haven't read any Sandman proper. Have we read any other Neil Gaiman at all?
Yeah, we just did Marvel 1602 with him.
Oh, that's right. Of course. Yes.
Which also has the same kind of introductions, at the beginning of every chapter, in which we learn something vague, and it sounds like a prophecy, but it all makes sense after you're done reading this chapter.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've read anything other than that of his, though. I feel like this might be our big Neil Gaiman year, though, just because we've avoided him for so long. And there's
I don't know that avoiding him is the right word, but it is worth noting that Vince and I have the historically hot takes, the hottest of them all, that we haven't really been that big into Sandman. I think neither of us have really delved too deep in it. I read the first volume and was like, okay, cool. And I think
I found it a little difficult to read for much the same reasons as we'll go into with this. Me and Chris have been texting offline about this. I think it's the same issues just around how it presents its characters and those kind of things. But I love everything Gaiman has written outside of comics that I've read. I liked Good Omens. I liked Coraline, the movie. I had a short story collection of his that was fantastic. Of just good little Preludes and Nocturnes, something. That's a Sandman book. But it was good stuff. He's a really good writer.
Yeah. And of course, Chris, I think, has always been a fan of all of it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a super fan of Neil Gaiman, and in fact, I got a little tired when he did Marvel's The Eternals. I was like, you're doing the same thing over and over.
We're going to read that later this year, right?
Yeah, but... and I'll complain about it when we talk about it. But I really like Sandman. I think it's really good stuff. Reading Alan Moore's Swamp Thing does help put it in perspective a little bit, the horror elements. But it's really good. I like it a lot. I've read all of it. I haven't reread the whole thing, but I have reread parts of it, which I think it's a good it's a good way to do monthly comics where there's a big story, and then month to month, maybe you're not pushing it forward that much. You're doing sort of a one-off thing that's not really about the big story. This is a mix of the two, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we jumped right into volume 4 for this episode, mainly because Vince and I kind of have our history with Sandman. We thought we might just jump into an interesting story. Chris recommended this one. It's a beloved story called Seasons of Mists.
Pat Oswalt wrote the foreword for the 30th anniversary trade.
Oh, so I didn't see the 30th anniversary
trade. That's what's at my library now. So clearly my library is refreshing its stock.
Okay.
It's a popular library book, obviously. But Pat Oswalt wrote this one, so you know it's good, right?
Yeah. If Patton Oswalt likes it, it has to be good. Also, stick around afterwards. We are, despite our best interests, continuing to read Marvel's Eye of the Camera. We're on issue 4 over there. It's almost kind of become fun to see if it's going to become good or not. But
I'll give you a preview. It's not bad. Is it good? We'll find out. It's not bad, though.
We'll get to it. Great. We have a lot of different artists on this book because we actually read 8 issues for this, right? I didn't realize it was going to be so dense, but them's the breaks here. There's like an episode 0. There's like a finale episode that we'll get to, and then hey, I wasn't gonna spoil it till we got there.
Oh shit!
And then we had parts 1 through 6 in the middle, but also one of those parts is kind of like an aside issue, and so there's like kind of a lot of different artists going on throughout this whole thing. I guess we'll talk about all of them. This might be a long episode, y'all. Whew, let's get to it. All right. So it starts with Destiny getting all of the Endless together. So the Endless is like the people that... Okay, all right, let's back up a second. Who's the main character of Sandman? It's this guy named Dream.
Is he the Sandman?
Not Marvel, not that Sandman.
No, but yeah, because so I was trying to explain to my father-in-law. He's like, Sandman? They made a comic about it, and y'all are talking about it? And I think he thought I was talking about Marvel Sandman, which we are not.
Sure.
Because he's like, Sandman is dumb. Like, he's not nearly as cool as Thor. So I was like, okay.
I was going to say, he tastes wine. He has exciting love affairs. What's not to love?
So and then I remember a Sandman, maybe from Kingdom Come, that just looked like a bug man, like a pest control guy.
Yes, there was a Golden Age Sandman that had a sleep gun, basically.
Okay, and see, because I read Starman around the time I read Sandman, I assumed it was to be a similar update that way, and it is not.
No, not
that
at
dude
all.
Doesn't really come into play. Maybe he does.
He is referenced in the first couple trades, but he is not the Sandman of this story.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's meant to be just like, oh, Mr. Sandman, bring me your dream, that kind of thing, Like he is the ruler of the realm of dreams. Every story
in the first
true.
volume, he's broken out of. He's been trapped for for thousands of years or something. And
for a few years, yeah, he's
just
been
a few?
stuck.
Okay. Anyways, this book starts with so he is of the endless that are destiny, desire, despair, delirium, dream, and death. And so we kind of follow Dream, but we see these other folks in this one. Destiny is getting everybody together to be like, hey, we just got to get together to talk. And everyone's like, what?
Right. Because the Fates show up and tell Destiny what to do, and he's what are you doing here? My job is to tell people what their destiny is. And they're like, well, I guess you should read your book, I guess.
And really, I like this issue. It's a lot of just family drama between the Endless, and it gets a little real when someone says, "Hey, Dream, why'd you do your ex so dirty like that?" And he's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you brought that up. I'm out of here." Which is really the main thing that I took away from this book.
Right, which was one of the short stories in, I think, volume 2, maybe volume 3.
I remember reading it, so it's probably it's somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think it was volume 2. There's a one-off issue about this story, which is a retelling of an African folklore, kind of Orpheus type story. So yeah, he basically fell in love with a human, offered her to be the queen. She said no, and he's like, okay, then you can die.
Yeah. And he sentenced her to what, 1,000 years in hell or something like that, or 10,000. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been forever. He sentenced her to forever in hell because that's how it works. So it's been a long time now. Yeah. We kind of set up the whole story that Dream is going to go to hell to rescue this woman. Nada is her name.
Right. And this is, and Vince, I know you are not a big fan of the Dream character, but this is Dream realizing hey, I have been kind of a jerk in the past. He is kind of humorless. He's not a goofy character. None of them really are. Death is the one you're supposed to like. She's the most down to earth of the characters.
Yeah, she's like the hell on a bottom Carter.
Yes, she definitely would be Helena Bonham Carter if this was like a 1999 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she, who is it that brings it up first? Is Desire that mentions it to Dream?
Yeah, she seems like the real jerk of the whole thing. Desire. I think it was her.
Who looks like Neil Gaiman's wife 20 years before he met her.
Right. Right, who is purposely like super androgynous, so you're not sure like what their pronouns are. But yeah, then Death is like, in hindsight, Desire's right. You were kind of an asshole about it. That's why you're so sensitive about it. And he's like, you're right. I should do something about it.
Yeah, I really like this. I instantly was like, you know what? These are characters, and I'm still not 100% on board because I'm like, well, if you're just going to tell a story about human people shit, then use like something that I can grasp onto. But I started to buy into it with this issue. It felt cool.
I think that structurally for me, the first half of this issue was very difficult, and then once it pared down, it worked for me. Because the first half of the issue, well, there's the fate scene, and then it's Destiny talking to his family about like, you're probably wondering why I all gathered here, and one of the siblings is just like speaking in like song lyrics, which always confuses me as a reader. But I think that's a me thing.
That's delirium, though. You're not supposed to worry about it.
I know, but like, I think once it pares down to just Death and Dream talking, and she goes, "Hey, what Desire said in there, like that was really dickish of what you did." Like it feels better to me, and it seems to work when it's 5 characters in a room and they're talking about like events and prophecies, and the fact that I think it's a clever idea that they change their looks from panel to panel. Some of them do, like they don't look the same from panel to panel. Is a clever idea, but it's really confusing.
It does make it harder to follow, especially when you're just trying to like latch onto something.
In the 4th volume, though.
Yeah. Well, and like it, Neil Gaiman clearly has like in some story Bible, like Death always has her ankh, like even if she changes form. Like Dream always has like certain things about him where even when he changes form, it's him. But yeah, it is confusing because you're like they're not consistent in like costume or character,
right, but it also,
but
like,
they are true to the character.
Yeah, I didn't feel like they needed to be like identifiable every time because it did kind of feel like general drama at a certain point until it got specific, and when it got specific, I knew what was going on. It was like it made me feel more like I was watching these cosmic crazinesses doing their like, oh, how can I possibly know what's going on with them? Oh, but I'm getting a glimpse at this aspect of it now. I thought that was cool. Let's keep on powering through this here. Part 1, I again kind of love where this picks up with Dream telling all of his little monster babies not to wreck the house while he's gone, in so many words. We kind of like get to meet his whole staff, and he's like, yeah, listen, I'm going to hell. It's, I think I can't die, but maybe they'll capture me. That might suck, so I could be there a while. Just don't wreck everything while I'm gone. He's got his Raven Matthew. That seems to be like his main dude.
I'm a sucker for birds that have like human names and then just talk like normal people. I'm a sucker for that. That's a great plot device or character for me. I love those every time I see them. I think they're in Fables also, but I like those kind of things.
Yeah. And like the whole thing with Matthew is that he's kind of the new guy, so it's kind of like Avatar or any of those things where when he got introduced, they're like, let's explain all these things to you. And so this issue doesn't do that, but he is constantly like, what's going on, Dream? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah. And I like him throughout the book as well. And just like his whole staff, it's like, it seems nice. He seems like a nice boss who, he's got that skeleton woman. Is that it? What is she? Am I thinking of something else?
I don't remember. He's got like the pumpkin head guy.
Sorry. I'm thinking of something else.
He's got Cain and Abel are like 2 of his most regular pals. He sends Cain to hell to be like, I got to tell Lucifer I'm going. They're like, is that a good idea? Shouldn't you like sneak in? And he's like, no, I'll make it official. And then the demons in hell are like, let's torture him and like really wreck him. And Lucifer's like, well, we can't. He's got the mark of Cain that says only God can punish him.
Yeah, a lot of the angel-y, demon-y stuff, I instantly check out with, just because religion, and I'm like, whatever.
It is interesting, like Neil Gaiman does such a good job, or Gaiman, he does such a good job of, Cain in that story. The Bible just has that random word like, oh, he just went to live in the land of Nod, and so Lucifer quotes it and is like, Nod as in sleep, obviously, because he's in dream world, and you're like, oh, I guess.
That's cool, I guess. I missed all that, but cool. I did kind of like that they, between this and the coming issues, they're always sending their ambassadors out to deliver messages for them to like the different realms, and like that felt cute to me. It felt like in this world where I've always heard that Fables, you brought it up, Vince, I've always heard that Fables kind of ripped off Sandman in a lot of ways, and I was like, I don't really get it, but I did get it with this. It's just like this sense that every mythology is correct and exists, and they're all interacting with each other.
Yeah, and I guess we'll talk about Fables right now. So Fables is it's every single like storytale fable, so like Snow White, Big Bad Wolf, they all live in the same universe. But
I wouldn't compare them otherwise, though. It's just like that's very plot heavy and super different.
Super structurally the same though, because like the way that the plots, I mean, it's got such a wide cast, and every single arc or every single individual issue could focus on any of those characters. I think that Sandman does, especially even this, like this changes who its protagonist is and what time period we're talking about or what story we're trying to tell. It just fucks it, like says fuck it, we're telling this story this month, and that is very much Fables and very much Sandman.
All right then.
And that like there's like an underlying like Parks and Rec style bureaucracy with Snow White and Bigby in Fables, and in Sandman it's kind of similar where he's in charge of the dream world, and we haven't gotten to it, but he's about to be put in charge of other things.
Yeah.
Right. So I could absolutely you could sub all the names for Fables characters. I could see this being a Fables story. Now, this obviously came after, or this came before Fables. So I'm not saying that Fables is being ripped off or anything.
Go ahead.
No, what was your question? Fables is like mid 2000s.
I was going to say, which character is Ron Burgundy?
Ron Burgundy? Ron Swanson?
Oh, Ron Swanson. I got them mixed up. I got my Rons mixed up.
I mean, Big B is obviously that, but
Big B is definitely the Ron.
Great.
But
Big B is
which we've never covered Fables, but I just felt like, this is very, very similar. And I know that there's a lot of like loose ends of Vertigo that come out of Sandman, including I think the Lucifer book by Mike Carey we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
End of first issue, Dream puts on this big old like bug-looking mask that I've never seen before, and I never saw again, and he flies off to hell. What is this thing?
Well, that's what I was wondering, if that was if that was trying to represent like the Sandman.
Like, he wears that. He wears that in the first trade, I thought. But I really enjoy the structure of this, which is he's like, I don't know what's going to happen. Lucifer could want to fight me. He could, try to trap me in his realm. I don't know what's going to happen. So he gives this big speech like it's going to be this epic battle, and then the next issue is not an epic battle.
Yeah,
I'm gonna not lie. I'm all on board for all this. This is like way better than what I like. Because I think I know a little more about what Sandman was doing. I read more about it. I listened to my friend's podcast about Sandman Volume 1, so I felt like I knew more going in, at least. But I was much more on board with this than like the first 10 pages of this volume.
And the regular artist for this is Kelly Jones, who I think is best known for doing Batman during the Bane storyline, Nightfall. So like he does a really good job. He does a great job later with the sort of more inhuman looking Norse characters and everybody else. But his stuff is very like expressionistic, and I hated it as a child when he would draw Batman. I was like, I want Jim Aparo. He makes Batman look like Batman. Everyone else who wants to like draw Batman stylishly, get the hell out of here. His horns would not be that long. But as an adult, I'm like, no, it's actually very good. Like his art is actually art and not just like photorealist art.
So did Kelly Jones get Nightfall and Batman after this? Because this is like, what, 91, 92, and Nightfall's like 93, 94?
I think he is doing Batman right around this time. Like, I think it's just after this storyline that he starts being a regular artist for Batman. So it's like 92, I think, is when he takes over.
Okay.
One thing that I'll mention that I thought was pretty cool with a lot of these issues, especially that first one, and some of these other ones throughout, is that I feel like the artists are really kind of changing up their style a lot between, like, even within the issues themselves, kind of just depending on what's going on and where they are. Like, it is so dreamlike and constantly changing, and I think the artists kind of respond to that and keep on changing it up a little bit.
Yeah, part of me would love to have seen like what J.H. Williams III would have done on this.
Yeah,
that would have been awesome.
My only real complaint about the art, and I'm only mentioning it now because we're getting to our first one, is that there's a lot of like blonde pretty boys. I know there's like a lot of angels and different kind of stuff throughout this book, but I found myself losing track of them at a certain point. Not a whole lot, but I guess at one point specific that I'll bring up. But we meet our first blonde pretty boy. It's Lucifer, who is a fallen angel. At one point, actually, one of these panels, he's drawn. It looks a lot like the Joker with like a big creepy smile. But he's basically decided, you know what? I quit. I don't want to be in charge of hell anymore. I'm out of here. And he's like sending everybody away as Dream shows up, and Dream's like, what's going on? Like, I showed up here looking for my trapped ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, and of course Dream thinks it's like some kind of scheme, and Lucifer's like, no man, like I'm just getting out of here. I'm closing up shop.
Yeah, I like the panels of Dream just kind of reacting to that a few different times, and just like, huh, what, huh?
Yeah, I like, he's like, some people aren't leaving. If you want to follow me, Dream. And like, there's this, some warlord from, like 500 BC who's like, I like fed all these, fetal whatevers to the tortured, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, nobody cares. Like, it's over, dude.
Yeah, that was so long ago. Nobody remembers that. Yeah, like this was honestly my favorite issue. Just them just kind of touring through hell, saying bye to a few of these demons. The set, like, there's Wolf Guy with like mantis arms who says, "Oh, come, like we served you. You're the Lord of Hell. You can't destroy your own realm. Like, we just want to follow you, dude." So sad.
Well, it's also funny because like Lucifer didn't really even want to become like the steward of hell, or at least in this story, which is really interesting to me. Like he's like, fuck God, I'm done with him. We're gonna lead a rebellion, and then he ends up running hell, and it's like, that's not what I wanted to do.
And like, so now he's like managing again. It's more bureaucracy. He's like, all these dumbass demons come out, like they're constantly scheming. They're all evil. Like they always try to rise up against me, and then it fails. He's in like this 3-part thing with Beelzebub, and I forget who the other one is. And then there's this guy Azagoth or whatever who comes up later, and so he's like, yeah, they're real pieces of shit. They found their way to hell, and I'm just tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting to me because I never think about him as like that type of character. I was watching Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and they at one point fight Lucifer, and like, we can't take him on. He is the devil. He's on par with God. And they're like, no, he's not. He's just an angel. That's all he is. And I'm like, oh. I hadn't thought about him as just like that low,
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely Paradise Lost Lucifer, not any other version of it where he's the fallen angel, and that's played up more than anything else. So yeah, and it really, like as at the end of the issue, he's clearly like, this is my way to screw you, Dream. Like, I didn't want to just like help you, and so like I've just made your life much harder, and I don't want to worry about it.
Yeah, and he like hands the key to hell to Lucifer, and to Dream, and it's like, hey, this is it. You're in charge of hell now. Thanks a lot. Peace. He does ask Dream to cut off his wings before that, which is nice. He also tongue kisses. This is who I was thinking of. He tongue kisses his half skeleton, half human. It's like a human with half of her face just gone.
Oh yeah.
And it's like his servant, but also they were in love the whole time. But they can't be together because he's gonna go.
I'm sure that was your favorite character, Vince, since her speech was like spelled out like the phonics of her with half a mouth.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Nope.
I'm into figuring that out. It's not like a cryptogram, but it's something like that,
I mean, this gave me a lot of like Preacher vibes because of that. Because like the head of somebody who's not supposed to quit, not God this time. And then like our space
again predates Preacher.
Does it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well there you go. I'm getting the full Vertigo package here, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, Dream is now in charge of Hell. So we are on to issue 3. Issue 3 is the one where I was like, okay, what's going on here for a little while?
Episode 3.
Sorry, you're right. Episode 3, because of part 0. Art-wise, this is a different artist. This is like a one-off issue. It's not. I wouldn't call it actually a one-off issue.
It's still Kelly Jones.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Sorry, I must have mixed it up somewhere then. Interesting. It doesn't look like the rest of the Kelly Jones.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look like last issue.
Yeah, you're right.
Because it's like Mike somebody else is the artist of.
Oh, you know what? I was getting inkers mixed up. This is the only one that P. Craig Russell inked, and so that's why I had it noted like that. And I guess you really can't tell the difference because his inking is a lot cleaner than whoever did the last one.
It's been like Malcolm Jones III and Mike Dringenberg did the episode 0.
Yeah, this one's a little bit all over the place in terms of kind of seeing a lot of different characters doing stuff. We get Odin, who has decided to kind of go visit Dream, and he frees Loki from his little trap because he needs Loki to come with him. And he also goes to Thor, who I like this design of Thor. He's a big crazy guy with this fucking tiny hammer.
Yeah, that's a great Kelly Jones design. He's like his arms and like shoulders. He is like bigger than the Hulk.
Yeah,
it's a tiny hammer. I didn't even notice that, but I love it.
Yeah, and he's got a goat sleigh, a sleigh that's pulled by goats.
Okay.
Yeah.
You do you, man.
Yeah. And Dream has the key to hell. Like we kind of see a little bit of we see chaos and order. I like the design here. I'm all about it. Those even who is it? Like Frank Lloyd Wright kind of squares.
Yeah.
We've got he talks to Death for a little while. What's he talking to her about? He's just like, man, what am I gonna do with this key? We see a couple of angels being sent down. The angel of silence, Duma, and who's the other one? Remel? Is that it?
Yeah, Remiel.
Yeah. Remiel. Again, angels, I lose track. I anytime these angels come up, I just kind of lose focus a little bit. I don't know what's going on.
So you're angels and I'm people with apostrophes in their name?
I think so. I think, I feel like that's okay. We'll get to that. People with apostrophes in their name.
Pretty boy, blonde boys. You don't like them?
Yeah. But at the end of this issue, everybody shows up to Dream's door, and ambassadors and everything, and they say, "Hey, Dream, we all want the land of hell. Please give it to us." And Dream ends this issue by saying, "Hi, what am I gonna do?"
Yeah, and he basically is like, we're going to have a dinner party. Everybody is invited. We'll talk about it then. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to talk about it before that.
Yeah. And, again, I know throughout this issue, I was a little like, okay, I don't know what's going on. But at the end of this issue, I was 100% on board. Because, honestly, I'm really impressed with Neil Gaiman's ability to take the story and just pull it in a direction that I did not expect it would go. I thought we were going to see a story about Dream navigating through hell, trying to get this person back. And then it turned into, well, actually, no, there is no hell anymore. Oh, and you're in charge of it. Oh, and you have to decide who you're going to give it to.
And then it turns like a West Wing bottle episode where we've got to appease all these different, which is a few issues from now. But that's what it turns into. It's so weird. I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, or like an Agatha Christie type thing where we're having the dinner parlor scene where it's just like all these weirdos, where it's just like, oh, it's Bast, the cat god of Egypt. Thor is flirting with her, and like all these other like random gods. And like Oberon sent some fairies, so they're like looking. Those are the ones that I think look the most like angels, where you're like, okay, their hair's a little curlier and they're not wearing white. That's the key to knowing which ones are which.
Yeah. Before we do all that, part 4 is like a quick one-off issue where at first the first thing I wrote down was, I don't get this issue and I refuse to talk about it. But by the end I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on.
This is exactly like what I'm here for with Sandman. Like this is what I want out of Sandman. This is what I was hoping more of.
So what it ends up turning into is like, so now that hell is gone, all the souls are kind of returning to the world, and so this is just a one-off story about a boy who is at this boarding school, and everyone who used to work at that boarding school is coming back, and it's like creepy, and they're haunting him. Maybe I should go back and reread it now that I know what to expect from it. But I was just kind of bummed because I was getting so into the story, and I just wanted to see it keep going.
See, this is what I call like Fables shit, because Fables would pull this shit all the time. We just have like, we're just that story you cared about. We're gonna completely not follow up on it next issue, and it's gonna make our trade collections really weird. But I don't know if it's a delay for Kelly Jones. Matt Wagner's the artist on this. It's good. It's interesting though. It's a kid who's, I guess, stuck at a boarding school over Christmas. He can't go home. Similar to some college students right now. Topical. And then all the ghosts just of all the kids there's a fuck ton of kids who died at this school and staff members who died at this school, and they come back as ghosts. And it's just a minor like Twilight Zone style, like House of Secrets, House of Mystery, classic comic book EC horror short story.
Right.
And under that context, I'm like, I like this a lot.
That's cool. Yeah, I think overall it probably is a really strong issue. And again, I should probably reread it at some point. But
this just feels like, when I talk about I don't even remember. I do not remember what the Neil Gaiman short story pro short story collection I read like a decade ago was called. But this is the kind of stories that would be in it. And
yeah.
I did like the end. Death comes to take this kid because he dies, but he doesn't want to go without his best friend. And so these two dead boys just kind of like go on an adventure together. And I thought, maybe they're going to like kind of tie into the rest of the story for a second. But then I realized like, nah, it's just kind of its own thing. And that's okay.
It has such a cute ending though, because they're like,
it's a cute ending.
Well, it's weird because now the boy is dead because he got killed by ghost bullies. He's dead, and his other ghost friend, they're dead, and they're like, well, eventually death is going to come for us and take us to hell, but until then we've got to make the most of it. So it's almost like we know we're going to die again. Like it's a weird parallel. Like they're dead, so they should ostensibly not have to worry about dying, but they are going to have to die.
Right. Well, and like the sort of underlying idea of it is that death or hell being closed made all these ghosts become visible, but like the ghost boy is like, well, I'm stuck here because I died here, and the kid's like, so what? Like, what does that even matter? And he's like, oh, I guess you're right. Like, it's really just his own limitations of like, this is what I think ghosts do, is they're stuck where their bodies are. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. We can just do whatever.
Chris, I have a question also. I think when we first said we were going to do this one, and we may have even said this on air, you said this volume included Midsummer Night's Dream stuff?
I don't remember if I said that or not.
I think you did, and it definitely does.
Yeah,
or somebody, I don't know.
Yeah, this does have the fairies from the Oberon stuff, but
that what it was?
This is not the one that I was thinking it was, that has a retelling of like the Hamlet story.
Okay, because see, that's what I was like. Okay, well, we got this short story. Where's the Hamlet story that Chris is talking about? Where is that? Okay, it's not here.
I forget if that's in the next volume. We also had like a character that was introduced in, I think, the second trade, like the immortal guy, Hob. Like when Dream is like doing his checklist of like, well, I got to make sure I say goodbye to everybody. He does go by to the guy that never dies and is like, hey, I might be late for the next time I'm supposed to meet with you. And he's like, is this a dream? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, yes, it's a dream. I got to go. And then Hob wakes up in the real world, and he's got the dream wine that Dream gave him. So it's a cute little scene. But yeah, I think Gaiman's really good at those scenes. And this is a fun little story. Like, it is just... It's a good way to do a fill-in because on the one hand, I think Kelly Jones probably did need like a break. But it's a fun little like what's happening because all these ghosts are coming back.
Yeah, it's a good way to solve a problem, a practical problem.
Yeah. Speaking of good ways to do things, I thought part 5 started with a really smart intro with just one more person showing up to say, "Hey, I'm here to talk to Dream." It's like, oh yeah, I remember because in that last part. Everybody was there to talk to Dream, and this is just one more person, and now it reminds me of what was happening, gives me a chance to focus on this person, and we're good. And yeah, there's like a big banquet. Everybody's hanging out. The guy who just showed up late is Clurakin, the ambassador of fairies. I don't know if is that a real character from Midsummer or maybe a minor character. Or
did you play Oberon?
I played Oberon and whoever the other king was in this weird mashup version that we did in high school. I feel like I know less about Midsummer Night's Dream because of that play. Yeah, everything was all mixed up. Yeah. But Clurakin is the ambassador of fairies. He says, hey, Dream, can you please give hell to nobody? Because there's like this whole thing about how we have to sacrifice people to hell every so on years. And listen, if you don't do it, my bosses brought me my sister as a gift to persuade you. And it's, he's got his sister who eats flowers and doesn't really say too much.
Yeah,
what else do we
she
got?
turns out to be a character. Yeah, then basically everybody makes their offers. Odin is like, hey, like we've got this, I don't know if that's supposed to be the comic character, but like we've got this
I think so.
fictional portrayal of a Sandman guy that we can give you. And he's like,
No, hold on. Odin, I like this backstory here. Odin is like, listen, you know how scared I am of Ragnarok, right? So I like made this little version of Ragnarok for myself to study, and it never ends, and everyone's fighting, but now there's like new characters in there fighting, and I think one of them's you, so you can have it if you want it. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Chaos is there. Chaos turns into a big monster and threatens him. Kilderkin, who I don't know who this Kilderkin is supposed to be, but his messenger is like this floating thing that just has a box that delivers messages from the boss. And he says, hey, we can give you the dreams of the recently dead. And Dream says, I don't want that. I could have that if I want it. And his boss says, okay, I'll come by tomorrow with something else. You've got this Japanese guy, Susano Onomikoto, who wants it for himself to help the Nippon culture grow. Bast, the Egyptian cat. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Who low-key makes a point of like he's making fun of him. Like, I guess I could just hate thunder gods. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah. Bast, the Egyptian cat, says, hey, Dream, I can tell you where your brother is. That's another plot thread that I didn't know about, but I'm like, that exists now. We can follow up on that at some point.
One of the endless they mention at their like dinner party, they're like, yeah, one of them's not going to be here, and so we don't know who that is.
We have the demon Azazel, who wants it back for all of demonkind. And he, in exchange, has brought a demon that once challenged Dream so that Dream can like get revenge and beat him up. Oh, and also he has Nada, who's the girl that Dream was going back to hell for. The whole point of the story. What? Oh my God! And Azazel's like, I'm gonna eat her soul if you don't give me hell. Oh my God! Oh, to be continued. Whoa. This is a great issue. This was a very like segmented issue where it was super easy to follow, and I think I also love it for that reason. But man, I loved it. Love this issue.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it manages to be true to sort of the ideas of these characters, and you're like, oh, like which way is he going to go with this? Like, on the one hand, he could just do nothing and help the fairies, or he could, try to help the best choice. Like, you really are. You're like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be in this position where I have to decide this.
Yeah. So he's really struggling with it at the beginning of the next issue, and these angels show up, and they've got or I guess they've been there. Look, again, I don't know. Angels, I tune out. Blonde pretty boys. These angels have a message from. They never actually call him God, but it's the name they refer to him as, right? Or refer to it as. And they say, actually, I made hell, so it's not for you to decide, Dream. Instead, I'm going to put these two angels in charge. And one of the angels has like a fucking breakdown over it. He is, what was it, Ramiel?
Yeah, he's not happy about it.
Not happy about it. He's like, what did I do? I'm being cast down to hell? Oh my God, this is terrible.
I want that job.
Yeah, it sounds like a terrible job. And so Dream goes out to everybody and says, hey, sorry, nobody gets it. God took it back. And Azazel says, well, too bad. I'm going to eat your girlfriend. But Dream jumps into that whole demon realm, into like Azazel's mouth. Shit gets like crazy. There's teeth flying around everywhere. It's some real cool stuff. Real like reminds me of like Jack Kirby, Doctor Strange kind of stuff.
Well, it's
Steve Ditko, yeah.
I'm sorry, Ditko.
It's teeth over Jim Starlin space, so I'm all about it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's the whole thing is like Azazel or whatever is like, yeah, I've got you now, Dream, and he's like,
is that how you say it? Azazel?
I don't know. But he's like, you're in my like, you went to the dream world. Like, you really think you're gonna like overpower me and eat me here? And so he just puts him in a jar and is like, I got what I wanted. You're an idiot. And the other demons are like, what are you gonna do with him? He's like, I don't know. I'll let him out eventually.
Wouldn't it be funny if the next issue was just everybody wanting Azazel? And then he had everybody brought their different ambassadors, and then he'd have to decide, what do I do with that?
Everybody pretty much leaves. We did at one point see that Bast, that Egyptian cat, didn't actually know where Dream's brother was, and was like, "Yeah, we'll figure something out if he accepts." But she heads out.
She also scratched up Thor and pissed him off.
Yeah. Thor, who was drunk, vomiting under the table, mopping it up with bread. The Kilderkin, who writes messages out of the box, sends him a message that says, "Yeah, good decision. Not too happy with it, but I get it." Chaos, who was this little girl-looking thing, but who turned into a big monster and threatened him to eternal damnation, says, "Nah, I was just kidding. It was a good party. Thanks for having me." The only people who stick around, and this message is delivered by Matthew the Raven, who is racist as hell, because he says, it's Lord Clorican of the Fairies and Lord Susan Thingy, the Japanese guy, like hyphens, can't accept it. You got to try to learn about other people's cultures, Vince. And Matthew the Raven.
Yeah, Matthew the Raven.
Yeah. But the two of them stick around because they just kind of want to hang out.
I should probably clarify. When I say apostrophes in names, I mean specifically Star Wars characters.
All right, fair enough.
It's when Star Wars characters are named that I'm like, just no, okay. All right.
Uh-huh, all right.
I want to clarify that. Thank you for bringing that up. We've been saying that for like 5 years. I want to clarify. It's not
fair. There's not too many cultures with apostrophes in their names, anyways. So it's easy for us to forget about them. Oh no, I shouldn't forget about them. Okay.
Just keep digging. Sorry.
Yeah.
Dumb okay. Star Wars names I don't like. The Star Wars name generators, I'm like, I hate them.
So the last thing that happens is, what does Matthew say? He's like, hey, it's a good thing hell went to those angels. They definitely won't be corrupted by it. So what's going on? We are on to the last part. It is episode Infinity. What? Hell seems to be returning to normal now that the angels are in charge. The demons are, getting ready to whip people, and the souls are about to return. We had a nice scene of Dream apologizing to Nada, who does not accept, because why would you? This dude, just sentenced you to eternal damnation, and it's kind of rough. But yeah. Dream gives her a couple choices. Did we? Yeah. We don't find out here, though, right?
I do like Dream is so he's distant. He's dreamy, I guess. Like, he gets lost in his own thoughts. But he's like, yeah, I guess maybe I was a little unfair. Do you want some food or something? And she's like, what the hell kind of apology was that? And he's like, you're right. That was shitty. Sorry.
Yeah. So he gives her a couple choices. We'll find out later what she did. We get a scene of Susano Ono Mikoto sneaking out. I love the clean, like, Japanese style of art here with this panel, with these like sections. They're great. But Dream catches him sneaking out. It's like, hey, what's going on? You sneaking out? Turns out it was Loki all along. Classic Loki right here. Classic Loki pretending to be other people. And Loki just like doesn't want to go back to being captured by Odin. So he switched places with Susano, and Dream says, you know what, I could just like make a copy to send instead. We can free up Susano. That's not okay. And, you'll just have to owe me something, but we can work something out.
Yeah.
And Loki's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, for those that only know Loki through Marvel Comics and not mythology, Loki's job until Ragnarok is to basically, he's like Sisyphus. Like, he's just sitting in a cave where a snake's venom drips down onto him every day, and his wife's job is to like collect it. So he hates it.
Yeah, naturally. It's a pretty bad job. Now, why did they bring him along anyways? Odin was kind of using him to, like, try and get the upper hand and, like, to see if they could deceive anybody to getting Hel, right?
Yeah, I think that was the idea. Yeah, he's like, we need somebody who's like a good, a salesman who's gonna, help us trick people. But then he doesn't actually.
He doesn't actually. Yeah, he didn't really use him too much. It was kind of a bad move to free your captive and bring him to a dinner party. But whatever.
Yep.
Chlorokin, the fairy messenger, his sister, Nala, the fairy who eats flowers, has to stay because she's a gift, and his masters do not take gifts back. So Dream's like, okay, fine, she can stay. I'll find a room for her. But, like, take off that image, and changes her from a pretty woman to a weird-looking elf creature. And I thought that was real nice. I like that moment.
Makes her look like a Zelda NPC.
Yeah. Nada shows up to accept Dream's offer, which we're like, oh, what was the offer? What did she accept? And she gets reborn into a new life, reincarnated as a little baby. Oh, she's back. How nice.
So yeah, after however many thousand years in hell, she gets a new life in Hong Kong. So good for her.
Mm-hmm. And this is where the pretty boy thing confused me, because I read this whole scene and was like, who is this blonde pretty boy? And it's not until we were rereading it just now, and I was like, oh, it's this guy. But it's like a blonde pretty boy on a beach in Australia, just like hanging out. And some other dude is like talking to him about whatever, like his family and how they're all dead. And he's like, okay, cool. Sure is a pretty sunset. Yeah. And it's Lucifer, right? It took me forever to realize. Like, I didn't realize it in the moment. I was just like, who is this? I forgot about him completely.
Yeah, that's the like reveal of like where did he go? And yeah, he grudgingly admits that sunsets are beautiful, and yeah, the guy seems to think that Lucifer is like some sort of like gay guy who's just like homeless and living on the beach.
A palm, I think he calls him.
Right.
Yeah. And then I guess our last scene is heaven. We see it being so like the one angel who was kind of excited about going to heaven. What was her name?
I was gonna say we're in hell in the last scene, aren't we?
I'm sorry, hell. I'm thinking of heaven because it's angels. Angels confuse me.
Yeah, Remiel is like there's a new boss in town. We're not gonna be like the old hell.
Yeah, he says we're not gonna whip you to punish you. We're gonna whip you to redeem you, and you're all gonna be better people when you come out of the end of this. And he's like gung ho about like whipping people into shape. Yeah.
Which, like the damned person that like he flies by and says that to is like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah, that's worse. That felt very Simpsons to me.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually worse, but I guess they're in hell anyway. So
yeah. And that's it. Fun story. Not at all where I thought it was gonna go. But you know what? I got to give more Sandman a chance now. I got to go back. I got to read it all. This is it's about time.
Yeah, like to me, this is when Sandman really starts getting good. Like there's so much world building, and it is like you. And I mentioned earlier, like this is Dream. Like he's becoming like a better person, which I think is a really interesting arc of like what happens when like this abstract entity is like, oh, I'm kind of an asshole, and like tries to be better.
Yeah, it was cool. Vince, you said your mind was not quite as much changed.
I'm still lukewarm on it. I part of it's I don't respond well to a lot of the characters. I don't find Dream to be a particularly like engaging protagonist, although I think that's kind of the point, and he is supposed to be kind of aloof.
I disagree. I found him pretty engaging.
I have a real hard time like tracking who's talking and what they're talking about. A lot of times just the way the scenes are presented, like the art is really nice, but it's a lot of different artists. The characters change image sometimes from panel to panel, as we talked about, like the first issue, but also like, and it was clearer through the lettering, like when Dream changed to look like how he looked to Nada, like that made sense to me. But there's just a few scenes, and there's one that really bothered me, I think at the beginning of part 6, where it's Cluracan comes to talk to his sister, and it's like it's really, the whole page is really hard to see who he's talking to. And Kia, you said you had a scene where like you were confused over who was talking to who. But one, it's a weird page because it's Cluracan and it's like an outside exterior shot. It goes, "Sister, I got something to tell you," and then it's a picture of Cluracan with his arm around a boy that he's just slept with, and he says like, I found this pretty piece, but like I still haven't seen the sister. You don't see the sister until the third panel, which is a really weird thing to begin the issue. It's just like it's structurally weird to me.
I see what you're saying. Plus everything is like a little weird. I feel like the sister was drawn different in this one also, and so it took me a second. But yeah, I get you.
You know, just little things like that. Little things like I think that scenes probably, and this is me being really ticky-tack as an editor.
Well,
like, it's like putting people's names in scenes. Like it's like, who was that? Was that Lucifer? Who was that in that scene? Like.
I think the Lucifer one bothers me the most because I know I'm supposed to be smart enough to get it, but
yeah, but I'm not.
I'm not.
But it's difficult because there's like 7 different artists doing this, and we talked about this with Archie the reboot a couple issues ago. Is that like Fiona Staples like redesigned all the characters, but then it had 3 different artists in 5 issues, but with distinctly different art styles, but they all still kept the look of every single one of those characters. They have like distinct silhouettes and distinct looks.
Yeah, well, I think the idea, like, who designed the art for a lot of this? It was Bill Sienkiewicz, who is like it's kind of purposefully not supposed to be, I think, super defined, and it's okay. I think I'm okay with having to work a little bit harder to figure it out. Like it didn't bother me too much. Like even in that last issue with like Loki turning back into himself, like Loki looks weird as hell in this book. It doesn't like, I don't know what's going on with him. Like this weird tall hair that looks like a flame almost that's going up, and like I don't know. It's just I think I'd rather have a bunch of weird things that I can at least enjoy for each different depiction, and be able to at least sometimes figure it out, rather than, I mean, I don't know.
There's something else that's just like, and I also just don't think it's like my type of story. Whatever it's telling, I'm just like not interested in that much. Like it's interesting enough, but I'm also like, this isn't exactly what I would just want to like. I'm like the type of books and stories that like grab me and like make me want to keep reading. This was not one of them, and that's not
Yeah, that's fair.
But whatever.
It was for me.
But it was weird because at the same time, like it scratched some itch, because then I went and read a bunch of Swamp Thing all of a sudden. Because I think I was wanting that Vertigo itch scratched, so I went and read a bunch of Swamp Thing. Charles Soule's Swamp Thing, which is after the Scott Snyder run in the New 52. It's really good.
Right.
So I got my itch scratched. It did something for me.
It sounds like it did the opposite of getting your itch scratched. It gave you an itch that you wanted to scratch. Yeah. Yeah.
Chris.
Great. And Chris, what you'd read this before, but what do you got to say?
I really enjoyed this. This is to me like when Sandman starts being like the story I really like. The first couple arcs are a little too heavy into being Alan Moore Swamp Thing adjacent. We saw when he catches Azazel or whatever the demon's name is. We saw the Corinthians skull eyeballs in his like collection, and that was the first or second trade with the serial killer guy with eyeballs that are teeth. And like it's gross, but like that wasn't what I liked about the Sandman. This is where it gets good. So we get introduced to all the other Endless. We already had met Death, but the rest of them are new. We're introduced to a bunch of the characters that are going to be important. Like I said, this is the story of a fictional representation of this concept becoming like a better person, and like how that sort of plays out, which is, Vince, I know you don't seem terribly interested in it, but it becomes sort of like a death and rebirth cycle, which is not like shocking considering they're like abstract concepts. You can't, he's not just going to like disappear. But it's really good, and I think it's like a very good example of how to do a finite story with a bunch of like side stories that kind of weave in and out. I think it's really good. Kelly Jones's art is really good. Some of the inkers and the fill-in is okay, but I really like his art for it. So I think it's really good.
Yeah. You bring up an interesting point. It's just like, I guess J.K. Rowling also copied Neil Gaiman by making Harry Potter get interesting in book 4.
It's not the first time J.K. Rowling has ripped off Neil Gaiman, because he did a comic that was basically Harry Potter in like 1985.
Oh, wow.
It did feel like a Harry Potter Christmas, that fill-in issue. It really did. But I mean, maybe that's just like a boarding school thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was more of a boarding school kind of thing. Sandman 1 through 3, of course, just like Harry Potter, also way too simplistic and written for children. That's a joke. We are, really. I think, on to. I'm just joking.
The Books of Magic, if you're curious about the comic Neil Gaiman wrote that rips off Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, I've always heard about that. Never read it.
Is it Magic with a K?
No, unfortunately.
Whoa. Yeah, that would be pronounced Kajic, idiot. All right, so Marvel's Eye of the Camera. We're on to that one. All right.
We've been putting it off long enough.
So, I have problems with the recap page, even. Phil Sheldon makes like an H.P. Lovecraft reference, and I don't believe that this guy would be a Lovecraft fan. He's just too square.
I think he's kind of a racist, so that part checks out.
Okay, checks out.
So he's the one Lovecraft fan that's there for the racism and not there for anything else. Okay, as opposed to puts up with the racism.
Yeah,
he's
like, what's all this cosmic horror? Get back to the racism.
Yeah, get back to the racism. I want to see that cat. So things still suck in the Marvel universe, and halfway through this issue, I found out that work is closing tomorrow, and I've got to figure all that stuff out. So I didn't finish reading it. So I figure it's just like more of the same. Phil Sheldon complaining about work sucking. Does anything change? Did you two read it?
Well, yes. It's so structurally, it's very, very similar in that it doesn't give you what Marvel's gave you. It's a lot of me thinking. And then this thing, and then member berries, this thing happened, and then this thing also happened, but we're not even going to show you a panel of it. We're just going to make reference to another Marvel event and not even draw it, because this is shit.
Yeah.
But it does get good, mildly, and then not pick up the thread, because Ben Urich gets stabbed by Elektra, and so he goes and visits Ben Urich in the hospital. I'm like, okay, now we're here. Let's do this.
Things are moving.
Things are moving, and then, like, a page later, something else has happened, and then the way time has gone on, he's then in a bar with Ben Urich drinking a beer, not talking about it.
They're both complaining about shit now. Yeah. God damn it.
Yeah, and then Elektra's dead, and he's like, I don't feel that bad about it. She tried to kill me.
You delivered that line with more nuance than the book did, Chris. I want to say.
I'm flipping through it. I got to the part where the Beyonder shows up and takes all the heroes away.
Is that Secret Wars 2?
It must have been, yeah, because I don't remember a big thing showing up for Secret Wars 1.
Because because I was confused, because I was like, are they showing how that suburb in Kansas or suburb of Denver got taken away, and that's what all this liquid hot magma is? But I think it's a different story.
No, that's Secret Wars 2.
I'm looking at this and I'm going, holy shit! Like, that is a moment of major. Like, you could have such an opportunity for a major shift in public perception. Like, tell stories about that time, not for 2 pages they were gone and now they came back and they brought the Beyonder with them. Like, you've been giving us 4 issues of blah blah blah. Like, that would have been something.
Yeah, because that's I mean, like, what was going on in the Marvel universe when everybody's off doing Secret Wars? Like, how's the world dealing with that? Like, yeah, you're right. That could have been an interesting story. What else happens? And then so that Secret Wars 1, all the heroes are gone, and then Secret Wars 2, the Beyonder brings the fight to us. And then the Rocky Mountains explode, apparently, which, I mean, is really funny to like deal with, but also I would like to see like the extra half of that story where people forgot the Rocky Mountains just got destroyed and just keep living their lives, because clearly the Marvel Universe did.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, it gets solved in this. They explain kind of how it happened. The Rocky Mountains are not destroyed.
Oh, I didn't get to that part.
So
how are they not destroyed?
So the Beyonder basically splits the United States in half, like cuts off the Rocky Mountains. The Silver Surfer basically boosts the powers of the Molecule Man with the power cosmic, so that he can heal everything and make it back the way it was.
Of course.
And of course, Phil is like, the Molecule Man. He's a bad guy. I saw him fight the Avengers, and it's like, a reference to an issue of the Avengers that only I have read. And I was like, yes, that was a story from like 3 or 4 years earlier. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah. There's a lot of like minor stories being recapped as opposed to like major touchstone events. Which, granted, there's less
recap. They're just like referenced. They're like,
yeah,
remember this?
Right. I'm shocked because they have repeatedly been like, but the mutants, they're our dark reflection, blah blah blah. I'm shocked that he couldn't find a way to work in the death of Jean Grey, because that Phoenix dies and Elektra dies within I think 1.5 years of each other.
Yeah,
and so it's just like kind of like, oh, these people are dying, but he doesn't know about Phoenix because she's in space.
Yeah, that's fair. He does get to see the whole Beyonder thing because a friend is like, hey, come take some pictures for me so I can write the story.
Yeah, and now I'm in a powerful position. But she, again, I don't understand the fucking, math and, how rich Phil Sheldon has to be, or maybe just the 70s and 80s are just different for how people have money. But, one, he's given a fucking plane to fly to the private plane. He's just a photographer, but is he from New York City to the Rocky Mountains? They commission him to go fly out to this live event to go take a couple pictures, and then have a staff of 4 people flying said plane for him so he can take a couple pictures for a magazine. It seems like an obscene amount of money. Also, I feel like if you're flying
I guess that's why magazines went under. It was expenditures like this.
It's gotta be, because also earlier in the issue, Phil's like, I can give back my advance for my book, and I'm like, any writer I know has already spent that advance, immediately. That's what they just used to live the last 3 years off of. It's gone.
Yeah, it's a crazy, and again, that's the stuff that rewards me for being a super fan. When his friend is like, "Oh, I'm now the new editor of Now Magazine," I was like, because Carol Danvers is in space. She was formerly the editor.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that is cute. That's cute.
So yeah, stuff like that. I was like, this is a silly Easter egg that I get, where she was the editor of that magazine. Actually, I think she got fired before she went to space, but it's established in the Marvel universe. I think the problem with this, and I was talking to somebody else about this, is
you were talking to somebody else about Eye of the Camera.
Yes, I was talking about why Marvel's works and this doesn't. It was at a comic book store. It's not like I was just talking to a random person.
Social distancing, Chris, for various reasons.
Yeah, quit talking to randos. They all have viruses.
Or just you're scaring people. You need to keep a healthy distance for people. Not everybody needs to hear about Eye of the Camera.
Yeah, as a comic book store employee, so he needed to hear Eye of the Camera. But so I think what doesn't work is that the Marvel Universe, for the first 6 or 7 years, things more or less they weren't going 1-to-1 speed, but Spider-Man went from being 14 or 15 to being a college freshman, in the 60s.
Yeah.
And so all that stuff happened, and so you can tell this slice of life 60s Americana story, and then also set it in the Marvel universe. But here it's supposed to be literally 6 months of his life. And I was telling Vince, so the last issue ended with Spider-Man not saving the Punisher villain, the Hitman, who fell off the Statue of Liberty. Mm-hmm. That issue was 1976. Secret Wars 2 was 1986.
Whoa.
Right, and there's no way he was in chemo for 10 years.
Yeah, this has been months in story time. but it's literally a decade of comics have come out, and they're just compressing all of it and like, remember this, because it's in such a hurry to like hit these big events, and instead of just focusing, like if this was just about Secret Wars, that would probably be okay.
Yeah.
And then you could just forget,
or just about his buddy Ben Urich getting stabbed by Elektra.
No, you could do like one issue about Ben Urich, like a whole issue about that. You could do a whole issue about Secret Wars. You could do a whole issue about I don't know what else. Like,
instead of just like everything being crammed full of references. Yeah, if you just had an issue about Ben Urich, who by the way is a better character than Phil, and I would rather have a comic about him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do it. Let's put Phil in a comic. I mean Ben.
Yeah.
Not Phil Urich.
Phil Urich is what? Yeah, my mind went to Phil Urich, and I was like, "Wait a minute, that's why I haven't thought about that character in a long time."
Yeah, we tried back in the '90s, giving him his own Green Goblin series, and only I read it again. The rest of you didn't, and so
it's in my Clone Saga collection.
It's your fault.
Well, I'll get recapped with it next issue. I'm sure.
He was in Runaways, and then
he was a bad guy, right?
He was a good guy in Runaways, and then a bad guy in Amazing Spider-Man Slots Run. Dan Slots Run.
Oh, all right, great.
But we've gone far afield if we're talking about Phil Urich's history.
Yeah, we got to get this thing over. I'm looking forward to the next issue. It has Mohawk Storm on the cover, so you know it's going to be good. But what are we doing next time? Oh my God, y'all! I'm so excited for the next issue. All right, next issue is coming out on April Fools. That's just how crazy this current timeline is. An episode on April Fool's Day. We're going to read the silliest comic that we could come up with. It's the KFC trilogy. What? What?
KFC stands for something, right? Not the chicken restaurant, right?
No, the chicken restaurant. Kentucky Fried Chicken has a series of comics with DC. 3 different ones that were like one-shots, all written by Tony Bedard. You had The Colonel of Two Worlds. The Colonel of Two Worlds. You had the Colonel Corps, and you have Across the Universe, which these seem to cover the events of Crisis of Infinite Kernels throughout them. Look, we don't know anything about this other than that they are KFC comics, and the covers look hilarious.
The Colonel of Two Worlds is like the Flash of Two Worlds. The Doy. That's where Silver Age Flash came out of, I guess. And then there's Colonel Corps, which looks like Justice League International issue 1 cover, and then it's Green Lantern, Colonel Sanders, and Across the Universe, which looks like a Green Lantern, Green Arrow book. So, should be good.
I'm very excited about these.
Is that Denny O'Neil? Is that right? Who wrote that?
Yeah, I think. The social justice, Green Lantern, and Green Arrow.
Yeah.
You care a lot about the green men and the yellow men, but you're not helping the black men.
Ooh, I hope that it's like socially conscious Colonel
KFC.
Wow. I can't wait. Some of these images I've seen from this look like they're a lot of fun. This should be a fun, silly enough April Fool's comic.
I think they were Free Comic Book Day or Comic-Con
something like that. Yeah. And you know what? If they're terrible, whatever. It's just one episode, just 3 issues. We'll get that time back, right?
Yeah.
So
I heard hell is empty now, so we don't have to worry.
Actually,
great.
Kia, we don't do contests that often, but I want to do a bet on this one.
The over under?
No, is the Colonel book going to be worse than I Have the Camera?
No, impossible. I really genuinely think Eye of the Camera is like the worst thing that we have read on this show.
Oh, come
period.
on. Remember that April Fool's book we did where they were making jokes about Acclaim comics that are not even Acclaim. It was Turok the Dinosaur Hunter was the only joke we recognized.
Okay, fair. But I think that's a product of its time in a way, you know?
Yeah. This doesn't even get that reference comedy from the 60s where we're like, what is this a reference to?
Chris called Maximum Carnage previously the worst comic we'd read for this show.
Interesting.
I mean, it's really bad. It's like a 2 out of 10.
Are we talking about that remake of Maximum Carnage or the actual bits that we read?
No, the parts we read the whole thing. Remember,
we read the remake of the Clone Saga, which I still.
You're right. You're right.
I love that.
Maximum Carnage was pretty bad, but I still think Eye of the Camera is worse.
I mean, It was 16 parts.
Oof. Okay, you're right. I would be still very surprised if KFC Trilogy is worse than either of those two.
Okay.
I would also be surprised.
So KFC, do you think it'll be better than Eye of the Camera?
Yes.
Okay. Chris?
That's my yeah.
Yes, I liked Tony Bedard's Exiles. I liked his work in CrossGen.
Oh, that's where I've read him. I did like Exiles, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, Tony Bedard. So Exiles is all about like kind of dimension hopping stuff. So I think, yeah, he was good at that. So I think this should be fun. This might genuinely be the best comic we've ever read. Okay.
Yeah, throw it in the trash, Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman. A new champion is here, KFC.
Yeah. All right. So I think it's time to go. We have to end every conversation by saying, hey, be safe, be well. That's how you end conversations now. You say, be well. And what else do we need to talk about? Is Your Stupid Minds doing well, Chris?
We are hopefully going to have an episode out the week after this comes out with a wrestler episode, which is always a fan favorite.
Is it Safety Not? What is it? What is the new John Cena movie? Is it that?
It is not a John Cena movie. We are going back to the 90s with a classic wrestler movie.
What is it?
Oh, is it like The Rock is like the Tooth Fairy?
The Rock did not exist in the 90s.
Oh wait, no, he wasn't making movies in the 90s.
No, well, you'll have to listen to the episode. It is not a movie you will recognize from its title. I'll tell you that much. But it is on Amazon Prime.
Okay,
right.
great. I can't wait. So, Vince, you got anything going on?
I did post a new episode of That Was a Game on our YouTube channel. All my friends are right here. I posted one about Dragon's Lair 3D, the cel-shaded 3D platformer update of the arcade classic Dragon's Lair. Came out before the Zelda Wind Waker, cel-shaded platformer on the GameCube. I like it a lot. It's super cheap, but it's fun in that like weird, stupid, precision platformer, Spelunky style, where it's going to kill you like every 10 seconds, but you respawn quickly. It's
interesting.
It's super janky, and I would never recommend it, but I also love it.
Cool. All right.
Much like that other comic we just talked about, The Real Clone Saga. I like it, and nobody else does. So there we go.
Cool. Great.
Kia, you got anything going on?
Gonna be stuck at home in New York for a while.
Playing video games?
Playing video games. No, I do go into work tomorrow, but I work with kids, so we're doing the whole transfer them all online for a bit. So it's gonna be, things are gonna be crazy. I'm gonna go stockpile some food or something like that. Stockpile some toilet paper. Ooh, yeah, definitely want to do that. I don't want to have to use old books.
Yeah,
Maximum Carnage right there.
Ooh, that's a good use for Maximum.
I did see a meme that was like, out of toilet paper, we've got 90s comics.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm real excited for what's going to go on in the world of wrestling these few weeks too, with a lot of like empty arena shows. AEW, I'm big into their creativity, and I'm kind of hoping they pull out some cool stuff as a result. So that's where my mind's at. I'm hoping this virus leads to cool art. Can't wait. But I think we're done. Thanks everybody for joining us. Be well.